In the previous session, we have covered one of the subtopic in a ray theory of transmission. That was a skew rays. Okay, what all we have covered there? Let me just quickly recall. We have covered there are two types of rays actually, meridional rays and skew rays. Meridional rays acceptance angle, which we have studied under ray theory of transmission, that was we derived, that is sine, numerical aperture is equal to sine theta a, that is for meridional rays. Okay, that is a ray which will cross the center axis of the core. This is your core axis. It will cross the light which travels inside the core. It will cross the axis while going through the total internal reflection. That is meridional. Then we have discussed about the skew rays. They follow helical path, even though it is looking like they are crossing the axis, but they are not actually crossing. Just assume you have a hollow pipe and inside you can put a rod. They won't touch. Okay, so it is something like that. Spring, okay, not pipe. Take a spring and inside those loops you put a wire or a thin rod. They won't touch. So it is something like that. Three-dimensional view you can have. So for skew rays, we have already explained what is the structure. Okay, so two different planes we consider here. Including that, we have used cosine theorem. From the cosine theorem, from using the trigonometry and the Snell's law, we have arrived at sine theta is equal to NA for meridional, but for skew rays, sine theta AS, that is the acceptance angle, into cos gamma, that is one additional term we got in the equation of numerical aperture. So these two terms are almost same, just this is one additional. So that's why here you can observe I have written skew rays, they are accepted, the second one which we have derived for, they are accepted at a larger angles because this sine term is multiplied by cos gamma. So they accept larger angles than the meridional rays depending upon the value of cos gamma. Okay, so based on these acceptance angle values for meridional ray and for skew rays, there is one problem mentioned in your textbook that let's just quickly take that before going for next topic. An optical fiber in the air has a numerical aperture of 0.4. Compare the acceptance angle for the meridional rays, that is sine theta A is equal to NA. That formula we have to use. Okay, with that, for the skew rays, which just now we have derived, sine theta AS cos gamma is equal to NA. Okay, but there is gamma which is unknown to you, that is given here in your problem statement, which will change the direction by 100 degrees at each reflection. Okay, here some term is given. Let's see what is that. Okay, let us solve. First given is numerical aperture 0.4. We know already acceptance angle is equal to, that is sine theta A, which is the acceptance angle for meridional rays. Sine theta A is equal to NA, numerical aperture. From this only we have derived the concept of numerical aperture. Okay, so from this theta A can be calculated easily. Take sine inverse of NA. NA is given to you, numerical aperture 0.4, calculate in degrees, you will get 23.6. Now for skew rays, there is one data given to you, change in the direction by every 100 degrees at every reflection. So what do you mean by that? Let's just quickly recall about the skew rays concept. This example, the front view I had shown you. So whenever a ray is traveling, see, it will hit here, it will go a reflection, and then here, so how many points I have shown? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 interfacing points I have shown where it will hit and changes its direction. So if you see, a ray is coming from this end from 2 to 3. Okay, at 3 it will hit. After that, it will come to 4. And then, so see, gamma is not given to you. They have given you this complete angle, that is 2 gamma. Instead of gamma, they have given you two gamma value, that is 100 degrees. It is not simply gamma, it is two times. It is covering this total angle. Okay, there is a hit and total internal reflection. Okay, and it will change the direction. So that is 2 gamma. That's why gamma will not be 100, it will be 50. Okay, so with that, let us calculate. Gamma is 50 degrees. So acceptance angle formula, it is NA is equal to sine theta AS into cos gamma. So you calculate what is cos gamma, or you can rearrange this equation. How can you get theta AS? For that, keep sine theta AS as it is. Take NA divided by cos gamma. Okay, which is equal to sine theta AS. Sine theta AS. This ratio, sine inverse of this total ratio will give you theta angle. So that's what I have done here. Theta AS is equal to sine inverse of this, which is nothing but 0.4 by cos 50 degrees. I have got 38.5. You can verify. If you observe, finally, the question may be extended something like this. Comment on your results. Okay, or what do you observe? So something like that. So what observation you can make? For acceptance angle for meridional ray was 23.6. If you observe, skew rays acceptance angles is 38.5, which is greater than the meridional rays. Check how much it is greater. 38.5 minus 23.6. Subtract it. Some 14.9 I got. This is approximately 15. So I have commented at the last, acceptance angle for skew rays, it is 15 degrees greater, that is 14.9, than that of the meridional rays. That's what the last comment was. If you see here I have written skew rays, they are accepted at larger acceptance angle, okay, than the meridional ray. And it all depends on this cos gamma term. Okay, hope you understood this problem. It's very simple, direct formula. Using direct formula, you can get the answers. Now let us move to the next topic, modes in a planar guide. Guide in the sense I'm talking about waveguide. So whenever we come across transmission, which you have already studied in the microwave and antennas part, so transmission line, whenever we come across a transmission line, it is nothing but a medium or a channel, okay? And waveguide is one of the transmission medium. So we have to check basically before going for planar guide concept and what are the modes existing in the planar guides, you should know how many types of guides are there, waveguides are there initially. So generally I have just written here, you can see in optical fiber communication, there are basically two types of waveguides, non-planar and planar. Okay, so we are, for your discussion, only this is there, but you should know the broader classification. The non-planar waveguide. So what it is? Non-planar waveguide, we talk in two-dimensional. However, planar waveguide, we talk in one-dimensional. In the sense, variables are two. So the wave which is there inside this optical fiber for a non-planar waveguide, and we talk here the transverse nature of the waves. Okay, we are here talking about the transverse waves. So here it comprises of two-dimensional transverse optical confinement. Optical confinement means we are talking about the optical fiber waveguide. Here the core is surrounded by the cladding in all transverse directions, and xy indicates two variables, okay, x direction and y direction. That's why whatever n is nothing but your refractive indices, okay, it is a function of both x and y coordinates. So this is about the non-planar waveguides. Planar waveguides, we talk in one dimensional, wherein whatever the light travels inside the waveguide, it will travel only in one direction. Okay, so you have already seen the structure of a waveguide, how it is. Centrally, you'll be having axis, core axis. This is your cladding. Central is core. So you know the structure. Here, when you pass a light through some angle, okay, wave travels only in one direction. So this is what about planar guide. So we are now focusing on planar guide itself. So now let us move to the actual concept, modes in the planar waveguides. The planar guide, it is the simplest form of optical waveguide. It consists of a slab of dielectric with a refractive index N1, that is for core, what we talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which the structure which we are using till now for any of the derivations, the same structure, it is nothing but a planar guide, wherein this is a central core and this outer one is cladding. Okay, how the structure looks like? It is actually, it consists of a slab of dielectric with a refractive index N1, that is inside this, it is having the refractive index N1 core sandwiched between two regions of, okay, okay. So it is nothing but see here centrally we are having the core. It is sandwiched between a material which is having the refractive index N2, whose refractive index value, it is lower than the core. So that's why we call it cladding. Okay, cladding is surrounded here. Only centrally we will be having core. This is the simplest form of the optical waveguide. This is nothing but a planar waveguide, which we have considered till now for our any of the derivations, ray theory, whatever we have considered till now, acceptance angle, numerical aperture, for everything the same structure we have considered. Consider a plain monochromatic wave. So what is this monochromatic? A light which is having a single color. Okay, so very simple. We will consider a wave which is in the which is propagating in the direction of ray path within the guide, the same structure which you have already seen till now. Okay, you can see this part is your core, this is your cladding, and core is having the refractive index N1, cladding is having the refractive index N2. N1 is sandwiched between two cladding materials. Okay, material is same, but it is sandwiched between two layers, and the refractive index of cladding is lower compared to the core. So same structure we will continue. What is happening here, you can observe. Let us just go through the points, and so at the same time we will analyze the figure. As the refractive index within the guide is N1, within the guide in the sense I am talking about core material, center. And the optic, what happens here, as because of this structure refractive index ununiformity, see N1 is more, N2 is less. Because of this, whenever the light enters and passes, okay, I have not shown you starting from this, from somewhere in between I have taken one point. Okay, probably somewhere here the wave is coming far from, okay, inside some part I have not shown, in between part I have taken. At this point, here it may come from like this, okay, something like this it has come from. So at this point, that it will move, refraction is continued, it will hit the interface here, then total internal reflection occurs, it will hit this interface between core and cladding, and then total internal reflection, and this continues. So the ray is propagating along the axis, you can see, in one direction. So there is only one dimension, only one variable we can consider, the distance. Okay, so what is happening here, you can see a ray which is passing here, some point P I have taken here, and this line and this point P. So from point P to Q, whenever a wave travels, okay, after total internal reflection occurs, series of TIR is happening. At point P and at point Q, if you see, there is a phase change. Okay, the phase change happens in the wave. Okay, and this wave, whatever is there, which is traveling, we can resolve it into two components. you know how any line, any vector can be resolved. Okay, so if a vector is something like this, it can be resolved into two components, horizontal and vertical. Horizontal is a cos term, vertical is a sine term. So if I take this ray as beta, from where beta is coming, it is coming from gamma. What is gamma? You have already studied in microwave and antennas. Gamma is the propagation constant, which is given by alpha plus j beta. Alpha is the attenuation constant and beta is the phase constant. So we are not considering about the attenuation here, because I have already told you many times in the historical development, attenuation losses will be very small compared to all other media which where we were using till now, coaxial cable and whatever, 0.15 something like that, dB per kilometer, so very less. So let us avoid this, negligibly small. So we will consider only beta term. So suppose this is your propagating wave which is having the factor beta. So what this term tells you here is, whenever we have got this difference in the refractive index, the core refractive index is N1, whose value is very more compared to the cladding. Okay, because of this, what is happening is, whatever the optical wavelength is there from air, the wave, this is your optical fiber, the medium, ray is coming from air, which is having the refractive index N0. If it is coming from air with the refractive index N0, you know the value of N0 is 1. It is having the frequency of and the wavelength lambda. This is for air I am talking about, when the ray is in the air. But when it enters this cladding material, when it is inside with the refractive index N1, so what is happening is, the wavelength in this region will get reduced by lambda by N1. It will not be lambda now, simply lambda. Wavelength will be lambda divided by the refractive index of that material. Okay, this is what about the wavelength. And what about this beta? I talked about lambda term. We need to check the propagation constant also. This gamma is equal to alpha plus j beta. So what is happening to that propagation constant is vacuum propagation constant, which is beta otherwise in the air. It will be increased by N1 into K. Here K is some constant they have taken. Okay, refractive index multiplied by that K factor will give you the vacuum propagation constant. It is increased by N1 into K. Lambda gets reduced by lambda by N1. However, the vacuum propagation constant is increased by N1 into K. So this difference you check it. Otherwise, in the air, the value is lambda, gamma and beta. But when the wave enters the core material, inside the values gets changed. Wavelength decreases, propagation constant value increases. So if I take this wave which is traveling here as the wave vector, okay, because we are resolving this vector. So wave vector which is traveling here as say beta. Okay, if this is beta, its value, it can be resolved into two components. One is horizontal, which is N1 into K cos theta. Cos theta, you know, because it is horizontal resolving, and here it is sin theta because we have vertical resolution. So sin theta and cos theta, you know. So what is this N1 into K? The amplitude which I have written. N1 into K indicates what? Just now I have told you. It is nothing but your vacuum propagation constant N1 into K. So whatever amplitude I am writing, it is nothing but the vacuum propagation constant. So your beta, the wave, it gets resolved into two components. One is horizontal, the other one is vertical. I have named the horizontal as beta z is equal to N1K cos theta. Beta z indicates your wave is traveling in a z direction. You can see here 3 axes I have drawn. In this indicates your direction of propagation. Above is x, below this is third direction is y. So we are considering z direction. If you want to flip this structure, coordinate structure, make this as x, this as z, this as y, or this as x, this as y, accordingly you should change the notations. If you take this as y, this all will become beta y, okay, and this will become beta z. Accordingly you need to change the things depending upon how you are taking the coordinates. I have taken the horizontal axis as z, so this will become your beta z. Similarly, vertical will become beta x because I have taken vertical direction as x. So your wave vector beta, okay, which is nothing but your vacuum propagation constant n1 into k. This gets resolved into horizontal and vertical component, and this angle is theta. So this is the structure. Now let us see what happens, how the modes are there in the planar waveguide. Fine. So when theta is the angle between the wave propagation vector, that's what theta I have shown you here. When theta is the angle between the propagation vector n1k, is it not? Theta is the angle between this horizontal axis and this. This is nothing but your wave which is traveling, okay, which will hit at this point interface and which will totally internally reflected. So this is your wave vector. So what is theta? Theta is the angle between the wave vector and what is this? This is your axis, core axis or the waveguide axis. So when theta is the angle between the wave propagation vector beta, which is nothing but n1 into k, or even you can simply take wave equivalent ray of light, and the core axis or the waveguide axis, if theta is this, then the plane wave, it can be resolved into two components. Just now I have told you the component along z direction, because I am taking horizontal axis as z. So it will become beta z is equal to n1k into cos, and your vertical direction is x direction. I have taken this as x direction, and this other remaining is obviously y. So beta x will be vertical resolution, n1k is the n1k sine theta. The component of the plane wave in the x direction, okay, the above, it is reflected at the interface between the higher and the lower refractive index media. So we are talking now about this vertical component, okay, not z. No doubt we have resolved it into two components. A wave which is traveling, it gets resolved into two components. One is a z direction, the other one is the x direction, out of which this now will not come into picture. I'm talking about x direction, because whenever an electromagnetic travels through the waveguide, okay, modes get created. What is mode? You will understand later. Okay, and electromagnetic waves, the electric and magnetic fields, they go their direction of propagation, it differs obviously, and their angles differs, the wave, as they propagate. So now out of z and x, I am considering beta x, that is in x direction. So whatever we have resolved the component, this particular component of the plane, it is reflected. So whatever light is going further now, no doubt we have resolved it, we are not considering this. So whatever light is traveling throughout, it is now because of this beta x, that is the vertical component will be dominating. So it is reflected at the interface between the higher and the lower refractive index. So what is that higher and lower refractive index? So whatever this we have resolved, this component, it will reflect between these two. This is your lower, this is your higher, cladding and core. When the total phase change after two successive reflections at the upper and lower interfaces. That is, I have shown you between the points P and Q. So whenever a wave travels after two successive reflections, when two TIRs happen, total internal reflections occur. Check out, you can count it here. How many are there between P and Q? It started here somewhere. There is first point, okay, one time in a reflection occurred, second time, so two times. After two times, during the third, there is a phase change. Okay, phase will change. Between point to P and Q, what is that phase change value? It is 2 pi radians, but since total internal reflections, it is not only 2 or 3, there are many. That's why in general, I have written here 2 m into pi. M is some integer. If you put it as 0, 1, 2, 3, you will get the number of reflections. Okay, and what is happening here is, once this happens, constructive interference occurs. Hope you remember what is an interference. When two waves coincide with each other, because maxima and minima, if you try to remember the physics concept, maxima, where the maximum values, they get added, that is constructive interference. The minima, that is their values get subtracted and you will get null, zero, that is destructive interference. So I'm talking here about constructive interference. So what is happening? Out of this resolved components, now this is not into picture, only the vertical component, it will go on, fine, it will go on, and there is a phase change happening, and as there is a phase change, constructive interference occurs. Constructive interference, I will show you the figure, you'll understand. See here. So whenever there is a wave traveling, how the constructive interference happens? So these are the maximum values, right? And these are the minimum points. So maximums, they get added, and during that you will get the wave. And there is a minimum here, negative you have got. What see, don't get confused with this, with why, madam, why we have got here amplitude. This is the figure for electric field, how the field travels. Okay, for constructive interference, this is the figure. For this one wave, whenever this is the maximum point, there is a constructive interference here, then no null, you won't get it here. So this is the figure for constructive interference example. Important to note here is this, okay, which I have encircled just now. I am talking about the x direction, and when we are talking about the planar waveguides, so we talk about transverse electromagnetic waves. Okay, so whenever the electric field is there, so when this happens inside the waveguide, when the ray of light enters like this, when the vertical component, horizontal and vertical components we resolve, out of which the vertical component, it will go and phase change occurs, there is a constructive interference. Okay, so because of this, how the electric field looks like? Electric field travels in x direction. See, if you observe, some part is here of the field, okay, amplitude, some part is lying here. This is nothing but your core material. Okay, some part is in the cladding here. This is your, some part of the electric field is in the cladding. So most of the portion is in the core. Okay, electric field, the main, the value exists in the core material. In the cladding, it is decaying. Okay, it is a, there is a small curve which is decaying with respect to time. So majorly it is concentrated in the core region. Here the interference forms the lower mode, m is equal to 0. M is equal to 0 means there is a phase change, I told you, 2 pi m radians, where m gives you the number of reflections and m gives you the mode. So m value for this figure, what I have drawn here, it is m is equal to 0, means totally there is no phase change. That's why this type of structure is you are able to look. If the m is equal to 1, 2, 3, the figure I will show you later. So this field, what I have drawn here, this field's clear picture you can get it here. Here, if you see, after two reflections, there is a phase change. Okay, this is how the electric field travels. So with m is equal to 0, what is happening here? You can ask me, what are these? To why, how we got two waves? Okay, uh, these are actually called standing waves. Okay, this is one term which was actually left to you. You didn't study about this. So standing waves, you can take one experiment, try to do it at your home. You can tie a rope at one place. Okay, कहीं पर भी आप बांध दो एक rope को. You stand at other place. Okay, take another end of the rope in your hand. Okay, this is a rope. You tie it here. One end should be fixed. The other end should be in your hand. What you do, आप हाथ से ऊपर नीचे एकदम से फास्ट से हिलाओ उसको रोप को. So what will happen is rope will start moving like this, and if you start increasing the speed with which you shake the rope will, it will come back to you like this. These are nothing but the standing waves. This structure I have shown you here. So that's what is given here. When the constructive interference happens, and this figure is for m is equal to 0 mode, standing waves they get created. Okay, when E is maximum at the center of the guide. So I told you at the center the field is maximum and it is tapering in the cladding. You can see the structure. That's what is again explained here, decaying towards the 0 in the cladding material. Okay, I hope you try this experiment. Okay, you'll understand what are standing waves. Now coming to the next. For m is equal to 0, this is the structure I have shown you. Okay, for m is equal to 1, 2, 3, how the waves looks like. So m is equal to 1 means what? You should have one time reflection, right? So one time reflection, let me show you here. See, this is one time reflection happening. If this is the case with m is equal to 1, this is your x direction, field will be, you will get two, the maximums here. You can see the structure. So you get two, these waves. Okay, how many times 0 has come? You can observe it looks like 3 times 0 has come, but it is not. See, यहाँ पे जो axis आप consider करोगे ये cross हो रहा है, 0 यहाँ पे है, and similarly it is crossing and some part is still there in the cladding. So 0 पूरा नहीं हुआ है, 0 सिर्फ एक point है. Similarly, if you take m is equal to 2 for the same figure, for m is equal to 2, I cannot draw it very clearly this waveform, so I have left it as it is. But how it looks for m is equal to 2, the structure you can compare these two. How many zeros have come? Again here there is a crossing. Here also there is a crossing. So zeros यहाँ पे तो नहीं है, but here there is 1 point, 2 point. So how many zeros crossing has happened? 2. So m is equal to 2, 2. M is equal to 1, 1. So obviously for m is equal to 3, you will get the 3 zeros, 3 points zeros crossing. So here again cross हो रहा है तो you cannot consider these 2 points. Here there is 1, 2 and 3 and so on. The field pattern goes on with change in m value. Okay, so what these subscripts are indicating? They are indicating you the m values and the number of zeros that have encountered. That is being shown here. So in figure it is observed that the m is denoted, m is denoting the number of zeros in the transverse field pattern. Okay, just now I have shown you the points. So what m signifies, it gives you the order of the mode. So I will tell you what is the mode. and it is called the mode number. You can see here I have written the subscript TE1, TE2. TE indicates a transverse electric field. Okay, transverse electric waves. Transverse electric waves, mode 1, mode 2, mode 3. So 1, 2, 3 are the mode numbers. Okay. Thus, optical wave is effectively confined within the guide. Okay, आप देख सकते हो maximum value क्या है आपका core में ही है, core center region. Okay, within the guide it is maximum wave is confined and cladding में ज्यादा नहीं है. Okay, it is tapering, it is decaying in the cladding. And electric field distribution in the x direction, it does not change as the wave propagates in z direction. Okay, so the stable field distribution in x direction, so field distribution, so what is mode? It is very important. So what do you mean by mode? It is nothing but a stable, constant, a stable field distribution in x direction with only a periodic z dependence. There is no, we have not considered beta z direction at all, only x we are considering. So this field distribution, we call it as a mode. Okay, remember this is nothing but the mode. And a specific mode, m equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, ये कैसे आएगा? It is obtained when the angle between this theta, okay, what we have considered in this figure, when this angle, it is dependent totally on this, between this wave or the ray and the axis. This, it is totally dependent on theta. When the angle between the propagation vector or the rays and the core axis have a particular value. So mode number m equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 कैसे create होंगे? Theta value पे dependent है. And here I have given you, these are the basics. Okay, what is TE, what is TM, and what is TEM waves. This is the general background which you might have studied even in the electromagnetics and even waveguides part. This was very, very much quality study was there. So for these details, I'll be sharing few slides in your groups. You can go through it. Okay. Hope you understood this part. Modes in the planar waveguide. Next concept is the velocity and the group velocity. Phase velocity and group velocity. We will be discussing it in the next session. Any doubts you can ask. Thank you so much for sparing the time.